hello, and welcome to today's Flawed Therapist podcast. And my wonderful guest today um, is my colleague Emma Finch, and she's an integrative counsellor and Pesso Boyden psychotherapist based on the board of Devon and Somerset, and she works online as well. So, Emma, welcome. Thank you so much for doing this. Really, really delighted to have a
Thank
chance
you.
to chat with you. I know we've trained in Pesso Boyden work together, so I know you a bit, but this is different.
Yeah.
So to start with, may I ask you how you got into therapy counseling field in the first place? Um, so this is the easy part, and the
This is the
difficult part
easy
comes
part.
later. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm 55 now, and in my mid-20s I had a literal dream. I was asleep and I dreamt of setting up a retreat for people. And I forgot about the dream until my dad died when I was 30. And I went off traveling around the world. And I remembered the dream because I stayed with a couple who had set up their own, it was like a backpacking place, but they'd built all their own accommodation. It was sort of in the sort of jungle. It was a tropical island somewhere. And it reminded me of this dream. So I came back to England and bought a camper van, and off I went to find somewhere to start this up. And that took me 10 years to find it. But I ended up finding this land on the Blackdown Hills, which is halfway between Honiton and Taunton. And that's the Devon and Somerset borders kind of thing. And so I started getting volunteers involved and having guests there at all different stages of my retreat development because it's basically land, nature, um, and I realized really quickly that people, because I was calling myself a retreat, that people were bringing their stuff, and I was like, okay, I need more skills. And for many years, I'd known Juliet Grayson, who is one of the Pesso trainers, and the universe conspired that we ended up working at Earth Spirit together. She was running retreats, and I was the housekeeper and did sort of office connections. So she asked me if I would help her on her Pesto retreats.
Oh, I didn't realize that's how it happened for you. Obviously, I knew about your beautiful retreat, which I'd love to visit
You're
at some point.
welcome.
So,
Yeah,
but the
very much.
connection with Juliet through that was through that. And yeah, wow, amazing story. Um,
Yeah. So
so
she kept asking me to do the training, so I ended up doing that because I knew that um well, that was my kind of segue into the Pesso Boyden work, and then part of the Pesso Boyden is that you have to be a qualified counselor as well. So that was kind of something that I did in addition, but it's been one of the best things that I could have ever done. And not only to support people, it's also taught me so much about myself and how I am in the world. And which is, yeah, bringing me to this aspect that you're doing this talk on being a flawed therapist. It taps right into my stuff of like, oh my God.
fantastic, bring it
Yeah,
on.
it's
So,
exciting.
what's hard about being a therapist? So you're running
Yeah,
a retreat, you see one-to-one clients, and you run Pesso Boyden experiential groups, healing groups.
yeah,
So, and I know you love it. I love it,
I do. Yeah.
and it's not easy. What's hard about it?
What's hard about the work? I think so having been brought up with a dad who was incredibly strict and had a whole regime of how to live life, to show up as myself in this work has been a huge lesson, which I think helps me to support others to show up as themselves. You know, there's so many rules and regulations that we live by in this world, which maybe some people are aware of or aren't aware of. You know, we're having to do things to pay bills and do jobs maybe that we don't like, and to step into that place of vulnerability where we can just be ourselves and understand how we're interacting with the world and why we're making the choices that we do. So it's been quite a, because me showing up as myself in itself, because of the way I've been brought up, that's a flaw, because me being me wasn't acceptable.
Mm.
And so in this dynamic here, I'm like, oh my God, you know, it's been good. You know, I've done a lot of work now on myself and continue to discover more about myself. And as I say, I think that I hope that makes me a more empathic person to work with others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And may I ask, Emma, I think a lot of many people listening to this, they will have some idea what we mean when we talk about being ourselves, but some people won't. So I
Mm,
know with Pesso Boyden, one of the kind of aims, objectives, intentions that we have is to help people be more themselves. Um, so can you say just a little bit more about that? What does that mean for you and how it has been hard? You know, I know it's hard for me to be fully
mm.
myself. And so what's been the challenge in becoming more of your what we might call true self or core self?
Yeah. So I think, as I say, if I were to use the example of my dad, which hugely influential,
Mm,
because I wanted to be like a good girl and make him happy, because otherwise he would, rah, you know, he never physically beat me or anything like that. But I learned to toe the line. So
mm,
what I have realized is that I was putting his needs first,
mm,
which he, you know, I got rewarded for. So I was like, yay, I've made him happy, which made me happy. And what I have realized is that actually putting other people's needs first, it's yeah, it's great, it's lovely, it's a nice thing to do for others, but that wasn't meeting what I needed. And as a consequence of that is, you know, different odd behavior would come out of me, like I'd be sarcastic or I would go into depression. And I just thought that was part of me. But with the Pesso very strongly, it's helped me realize that they were like coping strategies, like defenses to the outside world. You know, I wasn't taught to express myself. And with Pesso, it's Pesso Boyden, it's brilliant at helping people to um, get their needs met in the way that they were born into this world kind of needing to have gotten met. And they talk about like we're born into the world like a perfect hand, and if we get our needs met in just the right way, then it's like a glove fitting us perfectly. And you know, my glove was sort of like, you know, like this, and it's an interesting thing because if I reflect on, you know, looking back at myself, I don't see that I've had really big trauma.
mm,
And so part of me is like, when I even think of that, I'm like, yeah, but Emma, you're really good at playing it down. And actually, I have had some really nasty traumas, but
mm,
I'm like, oh, well, you know, just get on with it. And that's another thing where I wasn't allowed to show up in my childhood as myself and shine brightly, everything was like, oh, don't worry about it, keep busy, all these strategies of just getting on.
Yeah, those small t, so-called small t,
Yeah,
was
yeah.
have a pesky way of impacting our whole life
Huge,
dramatically.
absolutely
Yeah.
huge. Bessel van der Kolk in his book The Body Keeps the Score, which is a brilliant book, which I go on about. He talks about it. I think he says it's trauma by 1,000 cuts.
Mm,
So if
mm.
you think of a paper cut, it looks nothing, but it's really painful.
Yeah.
And it goes away and you keep having these, keep having these, keep having these. And all of that, all of the stuff, the emotional stuff, it's got to go somewhere, or so it sits in the body. And as I say, for me it was coming out in really strong sarcasm. And I realized through this work that the sarcasm was actually me saying exactly the opposite of what I meant.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in my family system, sarcasm was allowed because that's how people express themselves.
Great defense
Um,
mechanism. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
uh,
One of my teachers used to say that sarcasm is the opposite of the truth,
yeah.
which
Yeah.
makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and and kind of knowing you a little bit, I know there is the longing. Well, it is in me, and I anticipate in you the longing to be real, to be
Mm,
true,
mm,
and the fear of actually exposing ourselves and the
yeah.
vulnerability. So
Yeah.
when you started training in Pesso Boyden in in counseling, seeing clients, I'm curious, how did how did it challenge you in those kind of
Mm,
ways? Because we have to be professional and we have to be real at the same time.
yeah.
What was hard about becoming a therapist and being a therapist?
Well, I came from a place of thinking that I was okay and that was, there was nothing wrong with me. I just thought I would be learning all of these techniques and whatnot. And I think I feel very blessed in the way I've come into it because I was following my heart and my passion into it with the retreat and learning. I mean, it's been such a personal journey and learning. And because of where I'd come from, I was accepted onto the Pesso Boyden training. And the three trainers are incredibly knowledgeable and they come from such a place of integrity. I felt so well held in, when we do all our kind of practice exercises and, realizing for the first time at the age of, in my 40s that I actually got angry, and that had been like pushed down with, the sarcasm and depression and everything. And it was the course was held so brilliantly. And I was supported so well as I progressed from the training into working with clients. And I have this fierce wanting to protect and to support people. And maybe that's because my soul longed for that myself. And so when I'm working with people, yes, I have that kind of dichotomy of that, you know, am I professional enough? Am I authentic enough? Am I going to make mistakes? And I'm learning more and more. I had one recently that I was working with somebody doing a peso structure, which is the one-to-one work. It's very structured, so I think that's why they call it a structure, even though it's also incredibly creative. And I was, 20 minutes into the session and I didn't know where it was going. I was just like, because there was a lot of very in the present talk and a lot of story, what we call the old map, which almost gives us some kind of identity and we can relate to it. And I put my hands up and I just said, I don't know where this is going. And there was a moment in that I was like, wow, I know that to admit that, you know, several years ago, then I would have felt great shame around it because I think, or I would have thought that I should have known where this was going and I should be able to fix this. And
So what
um
would you have done several years ago if you weren't open about, well, I've no idea where this is going. What, how would you have tried to cover it up? I've done it myself, so I'm familiar with that.
yeah,
Mm,
I don't think I would have named it for
mm,
for a
yeah,
definite. And I think I would have squirmed and felt my sweaty palms and felt my heart and yeah, just felt my primordial reactions of like feeling a little bit anxious and
mm,
but I think that the truth being is I wouldn't have been honest and saying what came up for me.
yeah,
And that actually helped because the client didn't know where they were going either.
mm,
And so we worked it out together,
yeah,
by naming it, then we can start looking a little bit more in different directions and it came to a really good end.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the collaborative nature
Yeah.
of Pesso Boyden and what you said about, that fierce need to support and protect
Mm.
others. When we have a fierce need to do something for others, that will tend to indicate often, not maybe not always, but often it will suggest what it is that we needed, but maybe haven't
Yeah.
received
Yeah.
enough of.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe moving away from clients, how would your nearest and dearest describe your flaws?
Oh.
What might they say about you when you're not listening? Just
Oh.
take a guess.
Well, I mean, I'm quite clear with this. I have a dear partner, Robert. He would definitely say I'm bossy. And stubborn. Yeah, that would be a definite flaw. And also like so on the retreat, he's brilliant. There's always something to do. And he's just great at getting on. He sees a job and he likes making things. So he's just been making a wood rack. We get lots of recycled, reclaimed materials. And so he's been making it, and I come along and I'm like, oh, well, have you thought of doing this? And da da da. And he's just like, oh, God. But one of the beautiful things of having done all of this training is it helps me so much. I have to be careful to remove the counsellor hat or the Pesso hat, which he's quite aware of the language, which is, you know, different to everyday talk on some levels.
Mhm.
And yeah, but it's helped me be more aware of other people's perspectives, which
Mm,
is a huge thing. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
And, in terms of being kind of helpful or bossy, sometimes I find that may relate to that concept we have in Pesso Boyden of omnipotence,
Mm.
where we grew up um, having to kind of either emotionally or practically taking care of others,
Mm.
which makes a child grow up too fast and
Mm.
become kind of almost impervious to
Mm.
receiving help and
Mm.
support. I'm just wondering if you have anything to say about that, in what way that may be relevant still. I know, I've been working with my omnipotence for a while, and
Yeah,
it still pops up
yeah,
for me.
yeah. It's great. And again, going back to my dad's example, my personal example of um, being brought up with all these rules. So living by rules and thinking those rules are the way that we should be living. Um, it's tough to kind of let go of that way of thinking because as you say, I've learnt to um, be in charge of my world on some level. And yeah, this all of the therapy work has been invaluable for helping me see that in myself.
Mm.
And letting go of it's challenging because you know I've learned to be in control, this omnipotence. Um, and the land has the retreat project has been phenomenal in helping me as well because there's too much to do. As I say, I have volunteers. I have long-term volunteers come and stay. In fact, that's Robert was my first volunteer, and even that task of realizing that I needed to ask for help was massive. At that time, I didn't realize about omnipotence as such. I knew the word, but I didn't know it applied to me. I just thought I was really good at kind of um, making things happen or making decisions on some level. I laugh at that because I also have a part of me that's quite a procrastinator. So there's lots of crossovers. Um, but yeah, to let go of that control, it can seem scary. It does seem scary at times because who am I without it? You know, that's a massive journey for me. Who am I without all of these structures and um yeah, so to let go of that and like working with clients to allow them to be whoever they are and me not thinking, oh, well, this is how a person is because this is how I am.
Mm.
You know, it's massive learning and incredibly liberating.
Mm.
And as I
Yeah.
say, scary at times because letting go of those it's yeah.
Mm. And kind of in terms of the that omnipotence, and for me the important thing has been realizing like I can ask for help, and then maybe
Mm.
I also need a community and I can't do it all by myself. But in the early days, kind of one of the features has been, which I only recently recognized, is that, in work with people, I'm the only one. I cannot trust anybody else to do a good job.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a bit special.
Uh,
Can you relate to any of that?
yeah, massively.
Mm.
And yeah, again, coming back to the retreat, Satori, uh, because I can't do everything, I know that. So on one level, I've got this very clear understanding that I can't do it, and then allowing others to get involved and this again applies to clients as well, for them to whatever is right for them as such, and to be okay, well, that's great, that's right for you, to be able to sit and be okay with the difference. It's quite a thing, and it, it it's a beautiful learning on some levels because it's actually and reverting back to, you know, this thing of what we might have needed as children to let in that support. It does feel really good when the trust is there, you know, to build relationship and have people that we can trust in our lives. And, you know, it's never going to be perfect, the flawed thing, because we're all, no, nobody is perfect. I mean, with the Pesso, we do work with ideal figures to give us that bodily felt sense of what it would have been like to have gotten our needs met in just the right way. And in that scenario, it's brilliant. And when we have had that, when we get to experience that, then the stuff in our everyday doesn't trigger us as much.
It's quite a paradox, isn't it? We use the concept and the and the bodily representation of ideal parents in Pesso Boyden, whilst totally acknowledging that it's an impossibility in real life, but experiencing it somehow makes us
Yeah,
more accepting of
yeah,
our own and other people's flaws. So
yeah,
it's quite a paradoxical
yeah.
thing. So Emma, whilst you're a flawed therapist, of course, you're not perfect. I know you also weave baskets.
Oh, I
Is there
do.
such a thing as a perfect basket?
Never, never. Especially if you're the weaver, because you see every mistake,
Yeah.
and that's been quite it's interesting because like I'm already I can feel like the anxiety like sweeping through my veins because I'm like, oh my God, I'm saying that my baskets aren't perfect. Um,
Oh, that feels more vulnerable than saying that you're imperfect therapist. Is
it's
that right?
interesting. Maybe because I wasn't expecting you to ask me that question, and I'm like, oh my
Oh,
God,
I caught you off guard
yeah,
there.
I've just admitted I'm not perfect. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, every single bit of willow is different. How can you have that, like when you do it, I'm thinking of like that laser cutting, laser printing, where they can print 3D stuff that is exact, 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 exact. With baskets, it's a natural product. And yeah, never is two things going to be the same. And I might run out of a bit of willow because it's a bit shorter, so there's going to be a join there, or the willow might kink slightly in a place. And to me, as the weaver, I'm like, that's not perfect. As a basket, it looks perfect, in its own rustic loveliness, and it does the job. That's the important thing. It's allowing it to be whatever it is meant to be, not trying to fit it to this ideal something or other, It's like it reminds me of words. Words are like the pinnacle of something. They're like a little label that we can aspire to, like perfect.
Mm,
But perfect in outside of the word, it doesn't exist.
yeah. Yeah. So I love the kind of the metaphor. We are like baskets, aren't we? So your
Oh,
baskets would have been a precursor of working with people, and we are all perfectly imperfect. Was
yeah.
the kind of willow material we're made of uh,
Mm,
is that. So,
yeah.
but also natural and
Yeah.
pliable. Um, and Willow's got that amazing potential to regrow again. Uh,
Yes,
as,
indeed, and
yeah,
it does it. If you give it earth and water, it will grow. It's quite prolific.
yeah,
But-
amazing. And I want to get to one of your basket weaving session one day.
oh,
Definitely, that's on my
one day,
that's been on my
Masha.
list for a while, but my time management is imperfect.
Oh,
I've
me
not
too.
managed to get it in. So yes, we're coming to the end of our chat, and is there
Wow.
anything else about you as a flawed therapist? Anything that, on your journey that you know that you still need to be working on, and anything that's
Gosh.
still hard, if there is anything at all? Um,
Well, I think we've struck gold here because there's plenty. I I think for me it's learning about the openness, the willingness to learn by what we use the word mistakes for, and to grow from them and actually see them as a positive, even though the event underneath the label of mistakes might feel painful for me or uncomfortable, like as I said with that client, and like I don't know where we're going with this. And although that wasn't a mistake, I don't think, but it didn't fit my I should know, I should be perfect, I should be able to um and to keep growing and evolving with what I'm learning.
Mm,
I
mm.
think that's so important for everybody not to see, the mistake as a negative as such. I could get philosophical
Yeah.
and tune into all of these sort of words that are labeling thing and
Mm.
just think, oh, well, what can I learn from this? How can I be better? How can I grow? A bit like the willow, I guess.
Yeah. And as you said, it's painful when those, like we
Mm,
call them in Pesso Boyden, we call them voices, those kind of injunctions. You should know better.
yeah,
No,
exactly.
you have to this or that.
Yeah. If
So
I, if I can add as well, Masha, before we go, I just want to add one thing, because as human beings, as the way we're put together as creatures of this planet, we have like a nervous system, and we have like a biological, just a way of being. And when we tap into being flawed, it taps into our primordial need to be part of society or part of our tribe. And I just want to, for anybody listening, touch on that, because actually, it's hard to feel a little bit vulnerable and to speak our truth sometimes. I know it, my experience of working with other people, because it's can touch into that very deep, am I going to be accepted? Am I going to be alone now? Am I going to be so yeah, I just wanted to say that it's really normal to have these deep feelings, and in the right held space, whichever medium modality somebody chooses to help them, with that trust around and that safe space. I think to explore what comes up is a good thing. It's helped me a lot.
thank you, Emma. So, and I have an image of
Yeah,
a basket we're held in. So now that's going to stay with me for a while. Thank you so much, Emma.
bless
Lovely,
you.
lovely to
Yeah.
chat with you. And thank you, everybody who is listening, watching. Please like this video, please comment on it. And Emma, I will definitely be seeing you at your retreat as soon as I can possibly make
Mm.
it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Masha. Thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you.